Welcome to No Prize Podcast. This is the Professor, that's the Machine, and that's
Chitlins.
Chitlins. Oh, hey, what's going on, guys?
Turkey Day is over. I hope you
Yeah.
guys didn't end up in the hospital like a few of my friends did with
Oh,
gastric
jeez.
gastric indigestion. But now it is time to spend all your money on gifts and not necessarily comics. So your pickings are going to be a little bit.
Well,
Woo!
we have some slim pickings this week, I think, as far as no Disney Plus stuff. No, I mean other than the
Doctor Who, no, get it straight. Doctor Who,
are we
which
gonna do
is
Doctor?
which
Wait,
has
Do we have
wait,
to talk? Do we have to talk about Doctor Who? Do we
yes,
have
we
to?
do. Absolutely, we have to.
well, we
Positivity, come on.
we're talking about
Hey,
the
positive. Stay positive. Woo!
the crap slinging from Marvel Entertainment to Disney and the board, the chairman of the board, and we could talk Jonathan Major's trial starting on Monday and jury
Yeah.
selection done, and what does that mean for the Marvel universe? Uh, does it mean anything for the Marvel universe? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Disney has been having quite a year, right? And it's just been a bunch of back-to-back freaking bombs, right? And even when they're not bombs, sometimes it's just behind the light stuff that's been knocking them out of contention, right? So people, at the New York Times deal with them this past week, they talked to a couple of people like Kamala Harris and Elon Musk. I'm not going to run that video, okay? Um, but they decided to ask Bob Iger, "Hey, what's the deal? Why has Disney been failing?" And he says, "Well, he doesn't think that it's because of the strike. All right." And I'm glad he said that because guess what? They've been bombing before the strike freaking happened.
I was
He
going to say
doesn't think,
that this movie was ready to go before the strike.
yeah, he was going
Which
to say
movie
it
was
was
that
a
about?
strike like
Marvels.
publicity, right?
Oh, the Marvels.
He doesn't blame the weird hatred of the film driven by the sexism, Johnny. Okay.
I
Um,
liked Marvels. Don't get me
you
wrong.
know,
I loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was
I'm
good.
Yeah. But there's certain neckbeards who will say, well, there's this, they don't like the diversity stuff and all that. Yeah, he did blame, however, the volume of the content being created for making it more difficult to maintain the quality. And here's what,
that's not what I heard.
yeah,
I heard this morning on Twitter they was blaming the director. So
yeah. Here's what I think he means, right? So he for the last 7 or 10 years, what they've been doing is they've been hiring these off-brand directors who are not necessarily action guys, right? Because, like I've been saying, what needs to happen is if you want to tell a love story, you need to hire a love director or romance director. If you're going to tell a religious story or a political story, you need to hire a political story, and then you just bring in the characters, kind of mix match, right? But the thing is, some of these guys have been like really off-brand, C-list movie guys, and they don't have any. They just don't have that experience of directing a billion-dollar freaking movie because they've been doing that 100,000. So
can
what
we
you get
just?
is you.
I mean,
Go ahead.
let me just interject on there. This is the same week in which Tiki, what his face is, the Ragnarok
Yeah,
director, came out and said, "I took it as I don't care one way or the other about Marvel or Thor. I just did it because it's a paid gig and I needed the money." When you've got directors coming out and saying, "It's just a paid gig. Who gives a rat's?" Then what's that supposed to tell you?
they
For
let
us
him do
fan
two
boys?
Thor movies. Let's
Yeah,
not,
it's
let's not
like
forget that.
yeah, it's you're kind of like you're telling me You're telling me that you want to do great content, so this kind of agrees with you on this one, Lucas. You want to deliver great movies, but you're going to hire any old hack who just wants the money. Come on, you want a director who's got a bit of vision, surely.
Yeah.
I think that their gimmick directing, right? Like they're stunt casting these directors to do what they want. They want a Marvel's movie helmed by 3 women actors, and let's get a woman director. I think, which is fine, but the thing is you want a good superhero movie. Get a good director for superhero movies, not someone that's gonna shine the spotlight on the fact that there's 3 main characters that are women in this movie. That's gonna take care of itself if you have good actresses, right?
Great.
Yeah.
So
So I would say I would go back to Ant-Man and the surprise success that it was, and the main reason was because that wasn't just a superhero movie. That was a spy freaking Ocean's 12 type freaking movie that just happens to have superhero movies in it. And that's why now when they went to do this Quantumania stuff, they had no direction. I had no what type of movie I was watching.
right.
I don't know what they were doing. This whole Marvels, the Marvels thing, even though it was fun, I'm just not sure what type of movie it was watching. I was watching. I will fall back onto the first Aquaman movie, which people didn't like, but I loved because I know what type of movie it was. Like an Indiana Jones movie. It was a fallback to the hey, I got to figure out this puzzle to get to this thing, to hunt this thing, to do this other. It just happens to have weird characters that could do superhero stuff in there.
And Winter Soldier's just a spy movie with superheroes.
I was gonna bring up Winter Soldier. Thank you.
Okay.
But the messages that they were trying to throw across was just so garbled. There was no back and forth, and the only like if you have any type of brain of idea of what the heck is actually going on in the world, none of that stuff actually kind of really made sense or came across clear of what they were trying to say. Even the stuff when it came to Isaiah, is it really Ryder or the black guy? I I had no idea what they were trying to say with that. I get it, like, oh, we were tortured and we okay. Show me. How about you show me? By says having the old guy shaking this beast freaking tell me. I just couldn't grab onto what they were trying to say with that. Or maybe just give him his own freaking series and freaking let's roll it back.
Yeah.
But that, with that,
The quote that you have on the screen there, though, when he's blaming that the Marvels was shot during COVID and there wasn't enough supervision on set, I mean, that seems to me like, I mean,
that's a cop out.
how long? Yeah, how long was the movie in post production, and how they could have done reshoots? It's been 3 years since
So,
the
but they
damn
did.
pandemic.
So that's the cop out because they did do reshoots, right? So because that's not the way movies are shot anymore. Usually, and that's why you can have these random off guys freaking do this thing, right? You usually have that your random off right director do it, and then you should and close to a finished product to the other editors and other directors to look at it, right? But when they were looking at some of the stuff that was being sent by TIQ, IATD, and these other directors, I was like, man, this stuff is terrible. We gotta do whole reshoots, you know. And these whole reshoots, when this comes to be these Disney movies, they're very expensive, right?
Mhm.
So now your margin for profit is absolutely freaking terrible, right? You hardly have any enough money for marketing anyway nowadays. So that's where I would come from, where I'm like, I think I understand what you're trying to say, but look, I don't think having these guys on set would have made a difference anyway because of the direction of directors that you guys hired.
I mean, I'll go back to the TQIT thing, whatever his name is. The fact is, one of the things that makes Ragnarok so great is, or if you like that sort of movie, is that there was a lot of ad lib going on. There was a lot of characters went off script to do their own kind of thing, and it was all improv. That tells me you've got a director who's like, he's like the Stan Lee director. It's like, right, guys, we've got
They
these two
did
characters,
they
and
did a
they're gonna
fucking terrible job.
and
You
they're
had
gonna have a fight, and then we either clean up in CGI or whatever. It's just
Yeah.
no.
You had that was a terrible thing. Look, you had a character in all that Marvel fans had been in love with, that Donny Cates of all people had been able to get people to be in love with because of his, have this dangerousness of his tenacity, right? And then you show him doing one thing, but then you don't continue to build on that to show like how bad this guy is. But what do we get? We get the weird awkwardness between Jane and Thor and all that. I didn't care about it. I want to see Null get down. Okay, I wanted him to just go across the cosmic universe and show just how dangerous a threat he was. I didn't care if they needed a TV series to freaking do that.
Where are we
But
getting Null from? He wasn't in any of the movies. Are we
wasn't
talking?
he?
Are we
Oh
talking
wait,
about
wait.
Thor?
Was he? Are we? We did
Gore
Becky
the
me and
God
TT
Butcher?
do? Yeah. Was he Love and
He
Thunder?
did. He did both of them. He did Love
Okay.
and Thunder, and he did Ragnarok.
Yeah.
But
So that's
yeah, you're
a
talking
lot of
about
people.
Gore the God Butcher, the one that was played by
Yes.
Christian Bale. Okay,
Who was
Yes.
fantastic, by the way.
right. Underused, I think, in that movie. I think a
Agreed.
lot of his scenes ended up on the cutting room floor.
I would
It's
have rather
crazy.
had more of him than Jane. In fact, I'd probably have more of him and Jane and just knock Hemsworth out.
But
I-
even then, even when we do have Jane, the major thing over the last 6 years for Jane has been her cancer, right? And that just how dangerous it is when she changes over because, and they even messed it up, right? Because what was supposed to happen is every time she changes over to Thor, the medicine that she just took in freaking just goes away, right? And just freaking just kicks itself out and doesn't freaking work anymore. They
Mhm.
freaking took that whole thing out of like, oh, it's not the medicine that going out. It's just her changing over Thor that's freaking killing her, and that was not explained at all very well.
Well,
Um,
I mean, you say about the last 6 years, it's Jane's cancer story. That's in the comic books. It wasn't. It was a. It's a 5 minute gag in the movie. It's like, hey, I've
Yeah.
got cancer, and that's it. Um,
yeah, because cancer is funny.
yeah, well, hey, why
Fuck,
give it? Why
was
give it
a
to a comedy?
wasted fucking opportunity. I'm sorry,
Agreed.
Yeah.
Professor, but that
Agreed.
is a wasted
Agreed.
opportunity. You
I,
could
I
have
I
freaking.
agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. But it was tacked on to give some sort of emotional impact at the end. However, you tack it on right at the start of the movie. You haven't built up to it. It has no resonance. It is just a gimmick. So I mean that as a story point. Yes, cancer's serious. Of course it is. That's not what I'm saying. In the movie, it was that aspect of Jane, which makes her journey that much more interesting. Was just totally downplayed and it was thrown away.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Okay, so let's sum this up. So we got these directors that are coming in that don't care about the content that they're actually directing. They're just in it for the money. We got people who are trivializing the content that they've been given, even though where fans have been loving these books. So you had an already set base and they've been pissing them off by not even broaching it correctly. And they are trivializing something like cancer when it freaking comes put it on a freaking screen. Oh, it's just a thing. So now they're wondering now why.
Why is nobody not going to watch our movies?
Yeah.
Let's see.
So so the Los Angeles Times they actually had a panel with a few Hollywood producers, sat them down and says, "Hey, what do you guys think? What's going on with new comic book movies? All right, are video games the new comic book movies?" And a few of them said, "Yeah, we absolutely think so, right?" Because and the data is there because 7 of the top films for 2023 were either an existing popular brand. The biggest example was because like the billions that freaking Barbie made. Um,
Barbie's not a
and
video game.
it's not a video game, but it is a popular brand, right? So that's where we're going, right? So we had Mousetrap, Hide and Seek, Fantasy Island, and then Mario Brothers did Gangbusters, and Pokemon did Sonic. Man, it was just hit after freaking hit, right? Five Night at Freddy's also did well. Um, So one of the panelists, I think it was from Paramount, he says that he thinks that video games are going to be the new comic book movies of the next generation. It's like every video game company now sees what happened with Mario and Five Nights at Freddy's, and they want to see get into the game and actually help self-finance those movies.
Why would I? Right. I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent here, so
Hmm?
apologies for this.
No,
Right.
no, no. Go ahead. That's what we're here for.
Right. I don't understand why people would want to go and play a video game, and then go and watch a movie about the characters. My wife and my daughter are massively watching the Squid Game TV show
Yeah.
on Netflix, and I'm like, what's this about? Oh, it's a game show based on Squid Games. So it's a game show based on real people doing the same games you see on Squid Games, of course, minus people getting shot and all that and whatever, dying. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what's the point? You know how the
They're
games
not
work.
dying. I'm not interested.
Well, I said that as well. But you know how the games work because you've already seen it on the TV show. So what's the enjoyment? Is it some sort of mass cosplay thing where you just get to live your life vicariously thinking that you're in Squid Game? I
Yeah.
just don't get it. I don't understand it. This sort of stuff bugs the life out of me. I hate it when DC say new original movie. I'm like, yes, animated original movie, bring it on. And then it's Crisis on Infinite Earths. I don't need to see a cartoon of Crisis on Infinite Earths. I've got the goddamn comic books. I know what happens.
Well,
I don't need to see it again. I don't need to see it on Arrowverse. I don't
You
need to see it
mean
on
you don't need to
animation.
see an animation of Scott Pilgrim?
I don't need to see an animation of Scott Pilgrim. Not if the animation is the bog standard, same as the bloody comic book, with no massive differences from that. Do I like the movie? The movie is all right if you're watching it drunk, but it's just stuff like this bugs me. Oh, let's go and watch a movie about Mario Kart. Let's spend 2 hours working out is Princess gonna beat Mario in the race?
So
Who
so
cares?
no so in fact the biggest point that I felt like these guys that the panelists actually made is that the audiences that actually have shown up this year do seem to reward the films that fill a need in the culture, right? So before, in the last 2 or 3 years, there has been this diversity fight, right? Like, hey, make sure everybody is representative, make sure everybody has somebody they can see in themselves. Well, what happened? Um, what happened was is that more stuff that was meant to represent middle America or faith-based audiences was the ones that went out this year, right? So stuff like Sound of Freedom, and I'm not going to go into the political stuff behind that, and Taylor Swift, the Eras tour, right? That was huge, absolutely freaking huge, right? And I will go into that because so. Got to remember, and hey, we are here at Comic Crusaders. We are allied with the LGBTQ community. However, the fact that they felt that a lot of people felt that they needed to have these characters, these merit characters with no depth every single time was wrong, right? And Taylor Swift proved that because you know what happened? Some of the LGBT community showed up for Taylor Swift, right? Because she's an ally. So they didn't need to see them because they Taylor Swift was them for them. Lady Gaga is that character. So they would show up for these bridge freaking people and these bridge freaking characters. So that's how if you want to represent and be an ally, that's where we can go. Instead of making these cockamamie freaking characters that have no depth and are not going anywhere. That's it.
I'm all for diversity. I've said this a million times. I'm all for diversity. There should be diverse characters, but they've got to be holistic. They can't just throw a character in and say, "Whoa, check this person out there, this or that." What I will
So
say, and this brings up we talked about Doctor Who not so long ago. Oh, you mentioned it. I saw the Doctor Who thing last weekend, and you know what? 9/10 of it was brilliant. Absolutely loved it. I love the fact it's based on a comic book written by Pat Mills and Dave Gibbons. So that I really like that. What I don't like is the end of the show where it says, "Oh, you won't understand because you have to be non-binary to get this and to release all the power." Right. Diversity is diversity. Equality, and I've said this before, equality is keeping everybody the same. It's like that. The minute you start pushing one over the other, that's inequality. All right. So in your story, if you want to make non-binary equal to binary, then they should be on the same level. Making non-binary up here and pushing binary down, that's inequality. And doing that to like pushing non-binary over non-binary is just as bad as pushing binary over none. So until you get your balance right, stop preaching, please.
I would say that there was a couple of awkward moments in there, and the awkwardness was them talking about the pronouns, right? They were trying to figure out what me was, where she came from. She was like, "Hey, well, what do you mean she's a she?" And then they had to stop the interrogation and go, "Okay, what is your pronouns, meep? No, meep's a peep. Come on now." That didn't need to freaking happen. It was like, hey, let's just get on with it. Everybody's freaking good. Let's just get on with it. The secondary thing was um, Rose looking for what the heck was going down that freaking alleyway. So here's what I don't know about African Americans in the UK. Here in the United States, if I hear some strange fucking noise in a dark alleyway, I'm not going to investigate it. I'm gonna leave it alone. Because guess what? Strange noise and started drinking. That's none of my fucking business. I'm sorry. I'm going in the house. But what does she do? Yes, what does
It's a
she
TV
do?
show. It's a TV show.
What does she do? She's going down the freaking alleyway to see what's going on and everything. Okay, let's suspend my belief on this stuff, right? The problem now is that they were concentrating so hard on the lighting to make sure that she was passing, right? Passing.
Yeah, I know the
Is
film.
that they took the mystery. Well, they didn't took the mystery. They took the mystery out of what the heck was going down that alleyway, and that's a lighting and a bad choice, right? Because from the minute I saw it on the stage, I was like, okay, we're doing this. All right, fuck it, let's go. Right, but now you can see them trying to move the lighting to make sure that, okay, well, this is a beautiful woman. No, that's not what I want to see. I want to know what the mystery is. I want to know what the heck is down that freaking alleyway. Let's concentrate the heck on that. And they messed up on that. I'm making it a very scary moment, which would have been a great revival for Doctor Who. So they messed that up. Right? So that was my complaint for this revival of Doctor Who. I love the mystery right now of why the heck is he the same dude, right? Or why does he have the same face? I love that freaking mystery. Let's ride on that one. But they put so much effort in this other stuff. They didn't really need to. No.
Cool.
In the meantime, another
Professor's
thing
been
that's
quiet. Professor's just taking it all in.
Silver Surfer for the Fantastic Four movie. The rumors right now is that it will be a woman. Um, goes right into the same freaking conversation, right? What do we think about this, right?
Put
I
her in
don't
fish
know.
nets, I'll be fine.
I heard it was going to be Anna Taylor Joy, and that's the only one that I would accept because she looks like an alien anyway.
Anna Till who?
Anna Taylor Joy.
Oh, I don't know who she is. Let me have a
You're going to
look.
have to Google her.
Yeah,
There it is. I found it.
quite looking.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I can see what you. Yeah.
She
Wise
looks like
eyes.
a hammerhead Shaq.
Well, maybe. Oh God.
Oh, sorry. If you're going to watch this, Anna Taylor Joy, I'm sorry.
in the meantime, there's other moving news.
Can
So
we
I forget.
just be honest and say there's nobody going to play the Silver Surfer other than the voice actor? It's all going to be CGI'd. You know that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So
So
be a CGI woman.
yeah. So who plays the Silver Surfer? Who gives a rolling crap? Because I tell you what, Pedro Pascal's never in that Mandalorian suit unless he's taking his helmet off. So CGI, man. So CGI.
Yeah.
Just saying. You said you wanted
Um,
video games on movies. There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
And then last one before we start talking about some books is Look, Star Wars, man. I forget Kathleen Kennedy, and maybe about 4 or 5 months ago, I started talking about this. How she had one more project. She had one more project to get it right and be successful before they were going to fire her, and that was Ahsoka, right? And there was very mixed reviews on Ahsoka. So now they're bringing in this gentleman. His name is Dave Filoni. Um, who's
We
going
all
to be the guy that's going to be planning the future of the Star Wars?
we all know who Dave Filoni is. So
Yeah.
it's a great choice. It's a great choice. Did they just promote Kathleen Kennedy up in Lucasfilm, or is she out?
I haven't heard anything yet of where she's going so far. I hope she's going out. Um, they because right now there's a bad stank on her right now. For all the projects that she's touched, so they just need to give her a severance package and just let her ride off and
Yeah.
do her
Well,
own thing right now.
in Kathleen Kennedy's defense, though, I think Ahsoka is more on Dave Filoni, isn't it? I loved Ahsoka, and Dave Filoni is the mastermind behind that.
Well, but Dave Filoni also did Star Wars: The Clone Wars and the Rebels, which was wholly responsible for the content in there. Then Mandalorian and Ahsoka. So a lot of the lore that Ahsoka was pulling from was because of the shows that he built prior to.
I think if we're going to be uber critical, I think the same thing happened to Star Wars that's happened to Marvel movies. It's got to the point where saturation levels hit. Mandalorian season 3 didn't need to happen at all. Season 2 is bearable, apart from the idea that he's supposed to be a badass character that can go around the galaxy doing whatever he wants, and yet he's everyone's bitch. He's like, I will give you what you want, but you must do this first. And I've said this before. He's a bounty hunter. Why don't you just pull his gun and put it to the head and said, "Dude, give me what I want, or I'll kill you." It's simple as. I don't. But it's rescued by a fantastic finale in season 2. Ahsoka, some great bits, lots of lore in there, linked to Rebels, but then it loses its way. It loses, the idea was to stop Thrawn coming back into the galaxy. Fail. The idea was to get them all together. Fail. The idea was that Ahsoka would transcend somehow. It's the only one I think of in recent time that's been really successful was Obi-Wan. And what makes it even funnier is that we didn't even need to see Obi-Wan. Nobody says to me, "Oh, I wonder what happened to Obi-Wan Kenobi while he was on Tatooine keeping an eye on Luke Skywalker." No one asks that question, and yet someone decided to do a show on it. But even that, I mean, the first couple were a bit ropey, but it found its pace quickly. The only other one that has any longevity, I think, is Rogue One. But that's Star Wars for adults, not Star Wars for kids.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think the Star Wars future might be looking a little brighter. I mean, with Dave Filoni at the helm, I think that you can only go up, right? Maybe.
Yeah. Well, maybe what about? So I think what's pissed people off the most is Dr. Aphra, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got these female characters, they're in here and everything, but the one that everybody really, really wants to see is Dr. Aphra. And we haven't got it.
Yeah.
People really wanted Kanan, right? And we didn't get him.
See, I don't get it. I really don't get it. Why? Kanan has a really great story in Clone Wars. He has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Why? Why would anybody want to pay money to see something they've already seen? It absolutely baffles me.
I like. I mean, I do like the idea of Dr. Aphra. I mean, it's a diverse character, non-binary that people want, right? And it's kind of homegrown, and you don't have to worry about people getting mad about casting choices or anything like that. So, what are you gonna do? I don't know why they haven't introduced her yet. So, all right, let's take a quick break. We'll jump into some comic reviews, but let's check out Crisis in the Toyverse. Hey, it's Christmas time, and when you're thinking about getting toys for the kiddies for Christmas, check out Crisis in the Toyverse. He's got some great recommendations, and it's
Good.
kind of fun.
It's a good show.
It's a bit.
Good
It's a
show.
bit. I love the retro toys. All right, let's jump into some comic reviews, and first up, we're going to look at X-Men Blue Origins. Probably, I don't know if we'd call this maybe the most controversial book this week or the most headlined. People have been writing about this book since it came out this week. But let's go through the credits. Cy Spurrier writing. We have art by Wilton Santos with Oren Jr. on inks and Marcus Toe. Colors by CC De La Cruz. Letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. And, of course, the edits. We have Lindsay Koeck, Sarah Brunstad, and Jordan White. And this is a story that, if you are to believe the hype, about 40 years in the making, we finally got some kind of definitive origin story for Nightcrawler, and whether or not you like it, it surely was controversial. So we have a story that let's go through the Nightcrawler's old origin, right? We've always kind of thought that that Mystique was Nightcrawler's mom, right?
Right.
And we come into the 90s, and it's revealed that Nightcrawler's father is Azazel, some demon from hell, the red Nightcrawler, basically. Looks just like him with the tail and everything. And that's pretty much been status quo for the last, 30 years now? Where we've kind of thought about that. Well, we're going to throw this origin on its ear in this story where Nightcrawler and Mystique run into each other in Central Park. Mystique had been missing since the Hellfire Gala, where she's was made to jump off a cliff, and kind of everybody knew that she was still around. But so she turns up. She's going through some recurring memories where apparently she had been mind effed by Professor X, and everything's coming back to her. So finally, with a little confrontation from Nightcrawler, and Nightcrawler pulls out the Hope Sword. I'm not going to try to explain that. Read some Nightcrawler issues if you're having trouble understanding why the heck he's walking around with a light sword. He touches Mystique with it, and it breaks free all of her memories, and we realize that Mystique is not Nightcrawler's mom, but actually Nightcrawler's father, which makes Destiny Nightcrawler's mom, and that's basically now the new origin story for Nightcrawler. And then, of course, they had Professor X mind wiped both Destiny and Mystique, and that was what happened at the Hellfire Gala. Was Professor X actually tried to fix what he did? So I mean, a bit convoluted, as if any X-Men origin is not just rife with plot holes, controversy, confusion, you name it. Now we can add Nightcrawler to the list of super confusing mixed origin stories. Now, I ran into an issue myself when I actually reread this book this morning, where they kind of explain that that Mystique is not a shapeshifter, but a gene shifter, which makes it possible for her to not only make herself look like a man, but actually function like a man, be able to create, the genes that create sperm and be able to like father a child. My question, and maybe you guys can help me answer this, is if she can gene shift and basically, take on the properties of a male or whatever she takes the form of, how come she can't recreate superpowers? How come she can't make herself do basically anything? Why isn't she not a god type character? And Johnny, you look like you're just about ready to jump in here. Please tell me what you think.
Of course, while she can change her gene from male to female, or even from mutant to human, we've got to remember that mutants have that X factor. X factor. And that's the thing she can't replicate because she doesn't know what those X factors are. She doesn't know what the X factor that would make Cyclops be able to fire ruby eye vision, his concussion blasts out of his eyes. She doesn't know what the X factor is that makes Jean Grey a telepath. She doesn't know those. So because she doesn't know those, she can't change them. She can't recreate them. That's what I would say. But I mean, I'm not a mutant. Where all the rest
So
of this stuff is fine. I mean, story wise, I've always thought that this was the case. For me, remember, I was out of comics for a little while. I dropped out around the Spider-Man clone saga stuff. So Azrael is a relatively non-entity to me. For me, Azrael, the whole Azrael thing, that's the retro origin for me. Not this. This has always been the origin.
I agree with you. This is almost like this is a retcon of a retcon of a retcon.
Yeah, exactly right. The one thing I will say about the book, you went through and you said Cy Spurrier writes it. Cy, you know what? He writes some great stuff, but he writes some absolute turgid stuff. This book falls in the middle for me. The art, I don't care who the artist is, because it all looks the same with the next book. It's all the same. Who cares? I will say this: work harder. Mystique should look gorgeous every time we see her. That's her thing. But in this case, not always. But for the power thing, for me, you said it right, Professor. This is more of a retcon of a retcon. I've always thought that the way that they had the child was that Mystique had to be the man to impregnate Destiny. Always thought that. Well, I don't know where I got that from, but I've always had that belief.
It's Chris Claremont. This is a Chris Claremont idea of a story, and he said the reason he never wrote that story was because he could never get it to work. He said it always ended up being a dud, and that's the thing that makes me laugh. Is okay, well, I guess if this story is a dud, then is that really all that's Marvel's putting out these days?
Well, I also think
stories.
I also think let's give it where it's due. I think the society is at a stage now where we can understand and accept this level of.
Can you imagine if this story came out 40 years ago?
God no. But nowadays we can accept the idea of trans characters, and people who are non-binary. So it's a perfect time to actually, you know what, get rid of the mistake that's the Azrael element. Get rid of that completely, and let's just go back with the original concept. That
you said Mystique, but I thought you said Mystique, which was actually kind of funny.
So let's get rid of Azrael, and we'll just keep the original concept as it should have been in the get-go before Marvel lost the bottle. What I will say is that comic books in the past have a tendency to be on point with social situations. Talk about the drug issues from Green Arrow, Spider-Man, domestic violence in the Superman books we talked about in Old Timers. All these things, societal impacts do make it into the comic books. We are super aware of non-binary and binary trans issues, LGBTQ plus, and this book represents how far that has now become, acceptable, and it should be acceptable. And we've gone back and we've actually made the characters of Mystique and Destiny that much better because of it. There you go.
Is Nightcrawler running around in a Spider-Man costume just an action figure gimmick waiting to happen?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. You'll see the statue come out in about a year or so.
Lucas, what did you think of this book?
Man, you guys are on it today, man. You guys are freaking hitting it. In between, talking about how there is some relationship stuff that they couldn't talk about that they can't talk about now. There's stuff regarding RNA, which is what they were referring to, that we understand a little bit more now that they didn't understand 30, 40 years ago. There's stuff regarding intersex and people who are actually males, females. I'm not talking about the people who think they're. I'm talking about people who are actually both male and female. So that's very interesting. So now there's nothing more that I can say because you guys hit it all. The only thing that I would freaking ask for ourselves going forward is because you asked, like, okay, does this mean that Mystique can, you know, change her powers and everything? Well, if she can, or if she cannot or can't, what about Nightcrawler, right? He should be able to do. He may be able to do the same thing, right? He may be able to like have all these freaking god powers, and he can make himself male. He can make himself female. He should be able to also to tell the future, right? Because his mom is Destiny, right? He should be able to
You
do
know
all.
what? That's not a bad shout, actually. The Destiny one is a really good shout. Yes. Maybe that's how
So
his teleport works. Because
maybe,
He can see the future.
well,
He
no, he
knows
can,
where he's going to end up.
yeah, maybe.
yeah.
There's one more
So
thing on this book that I want to talk about, but go ahead, Lucas.
no, no. Well, I mean that's all there is to say, man. You guys hit it perfectly.
Oh, okay.
You know,
I had an issue with Professor X in this issue, who mind wiped Mystique and Destiny, and then said, "I'm going to mind wipe myself." like, I don't know if that's part of his power set. Can he mind wipe himself and make himself
Well,
forget stuff? I just, it just didn't ring true to me.
I'm
he
just,
can lock stuff. Yes, because he's before, and I forget which books it was. He was able to lock stuff away from.
Oh, is that the whole onslaught thing?
He locks pieces of himself away from himself because if that stuff ever got out, or if somebody went into his mind, they would be able to go in there and unlock that stuff, and then boom.
I
Yeah.
just have one more thing to say. I really am. I've been thinking logically here. To answer your question, Professor, if Mystique could then change and absorb other people's like powers,
Yeah.
then here's the thing: if she changes, and I'll pick Cyclops again just for the thing. If she changes herself to be Cyclops and changes her DNA, takes on board his Ruby Blast or whatever it's called, Concussion Blast,
Optic blast.
Optic Blast. At that point, she no longer has the power to change back because she's absorbed she's somebody else now. So then you think to yourself, I mean, we've seen it in the movies where she changes into Wolverine and she pops his claws, but then they're not adamantium claws because she doesn't know they're adamantium.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think she should get the powers after that. I think it's like you can absorb the thing, but she's not what's his face from Heroes, the TV show.
Sylar.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a blast from the past.
Save the cheerleader, save the world. Nah, man.
Yeah.
Screw the cheerleader, screw the world. That's my show.
But let's call this what this is. It's very intriguing. There's all types of way they can go with this,
I
but
liked it.
but of course they will screw this up.
They're
gonna screw this up. You got me, color me intrigued, color me, like okay, you've had this very interesting, very romantic relationship that I've been digging, right? This LGBTQ relationship that I've been digging because they've been treating it very properly.
Indeed, they have. Yeah,
they have, but they've brought up this very interesting aspect of their relationship through their children, right? But they're going to mess it up. So
harsh. But no, when you picked this book, I thought you were furious about it. So
I was when I
kind of read it like this. I kind of read it like that. I was like, but like the only thing that knocked me was the little furry elf. Who the hell's that?
That actually took me out of the story. That was just like, okay, so the author is trying to talk to me directly to me. I don't.
It's weird because
he's in the Jean Grey book, isn't he? He's in the Jean Grey book.
I've seen him also in the Magic book, right? So when she was a little girl, there was a little devil following her around. So I'm wondering if that's that little guy as well. Yeah. So I don't know.
The Jean Grey book when she was a kid, when the young kids came to the future, he was in the Jean Grey book as something. I can't remember what it was because I didn't buy it, but no, that was the only negative on this whole book. Lose him and I'm fine. But,
it went down. It went down easier in my second reading. I was furious when I first read it, and then when I did some research and found out it was an old idea that Claremont didn't use.
I did say that, to be fair.
Yeah. No, you did. Yeah. Now that actually prompted me to do some research. So, but what are you going to do? All right, let's move on to the next one. We're running out of time. Yeah. Oh, Look at that.
Howard the Duck, the What If. My goodness. This is where what ifs should be, right? It should be under the weird characters, right? And they get, because they got weird imaginations, then we should just follow all these what ifs through them, right? So of course Howard the Duck, one of the weirdest freaking characters that we got out there, decided to put this on there, and this was one of the biggest books of the week. Stories written by Ed McGuinness and Laura Martin, supported by Gil Kane and Ernie Sheeran. Excuse me, those were the cover artists. Then Chip Zdarsky chipped in the logo. Product designer Carlo Lau. Editor in chief CB Saluski. Let's see, and written by Chip Zdarsky, Quinones, Gibson, Lee, Kip Smith. Man, so I love this because this was a very fun book. Um, Different freaking aspects of this, and to include the new character, the Creeper. Right, so he's not the Watcher;
No,
he's
he's
the Creeper.
the peeper. The
Peeper,
He's
peeper.
the
Peeper.
peeper, the
The
peeper.
peeper.
That's even worse. That perverted freaking son of a bitch that has the powers of the Watcher, and he's peeping in peepholes and peeping through the universe, including in your freaking bathrooms. Um, also like the little storyline of Howard the Duck as the president, even though his assistant VP or whatever is a character. He's got magical powers, but they don't give him a name yet. So we'll see if they ever go back to that. I love the interior art on this. Just a lot of fun. This is something that you could probably give to your kids and everything to read. A little bit too much dialogue, right? Because the pop-up bubbles were just like all over the place and very disorganized. But for the most part, this is something that I liked. Right? I'm glad they did this.
So I think this is like the anthology book. I know a couple, maybe a month or so ago, we did Jeff the Shark. That was kind of an anthology book where it was different creative teams doing more four or five stories. This book really kind of, I think, brought the humor and the satire back that Howard the Duck is known for. It kind of read like a Steve Gerber book. They actually did like a throwback to basically all the Steve Gerber stories that they did. This were all sequels. They were all what ifs to what Steve Gerber showed. Like, if what if he won the presidency? I don't know if no, I don't know if everybody knows that Howard the Duck ran for president in 1976. So it was actually funny to see if he got in the presidency. There was a bunch of other stories with some of the weird ass villains that he fought, and I did enjoy this book, and I didn't think I was gonna. When you picked this book I was like, I was gonna skip this book this week, but I'm, I'm glad that I read it because it was quick, little 6-page stories, 8-page stories, kind of show you, and of course they called it Wagif, like wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought
yeah.
I thought that was kind of cute too. Johnny, what did you think of Howard the Duck?
I must be a Grinch because I was like, what?
You were like,
What?
what?
I was
What?
like,
What? What?
wow, 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 wow. Yeah, I was like, I mean, okay, so I've never been a Howard the Duck fan from the get-go, so I'm already on a bit of a loser on this one. The fact that his main claim to fame occurred when I was 2 meant that by the time I got into comic books, the whole craze of Howard the Duck had kind of passed me by, and that's fine. And we've seen him on Old Timers a couple of times,
Yeah.
and I've enjoyed it for what it is. He's a kicker. This is a standard 34-page book. Is it worth $5.99 instead of $4.99 for everybody else? Is it?
No, I would
Yeah.
say I would
Yeah.
not pay $5.99 for this book, but it was a fun read.
Just I'm thinking to myself, I don't think I would. I'm not obviously, as I said, I'm not a Duck fan, so um, I think I'm past the point where satirical characters like the Peeper just have no real kind of resonance with me anymore. I used to like it when, was it Fembeck? Is that the guy that used to do the
Hembeck,
cartoon?
Fred
Hembeck.
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 Yeah.
I used to like those back in the day, but I'm talking about 70s, 80s when I was like, yeah, this is great. Now it's just a little bit old hash, and I knew that he ran for the president, and the other stuff. The X-Men story was was interesting because we've been talking about binary and inclusivity a lot recently and stuff and non-binary, and yet that book is the absolute antithesis of what we were talking about. In the book, you have to be a mutant to be allowed to hang out. As soon as you're a mutant, they forget you and kick you out again. It's kind of like it's an it's exclusive.
That was the satire of it.
And I get that, but I'm kind of thinking, well, you're mixing your metaphor, you're mixing it up, man. It's like, is it? I don't know. There's going to be people who read this as satire. We can read it as satire because we're aware of the world and stuff. But you give this to a kid who's like 12, he's going to get the whole like, oh yeah, it's okay to exclude those because they're not like me. That's what they're going to get out of this. And I'm thinking, well,
that's the way of the world now. Satire is a forgotten art. And you read this, and it's kind of like if you're watching stand-up comedy and like no one can take a joke anymore. Same thing with this.
I think satire has its place. Slap a mature readers on this book, and fine, knock yourself out. It's great. Or I would have even put an immature tack on it. There you go. That's what I would have put the label on.
If you slapped a mature readers on this, you'd have to bump the price up to $7.99, and then no one would buy
it. With all the covers, it's probably the same for all that. But no, it wasn't for me. It wasn't for me.
Well, nothing for everybody.
But I did prefer Jeff the Shark though.
I did not. I would have rather I would read Howard the Duck 100 times out of 100 over Jeff the Shark.
All right,
so all right, we're gonna drop our third review. Sorry, Spider Woman, but we're gonna go right to our 2-minute warning.
Oh, 10-minute warning.
2-minute warning.
I almost said 10
minutes. I am going to take 15 seconds of the 2-minute warning to talk about gang war in general, not just the book. Once again, I've talked about leave action stuff to action. We leave romance. How about we leave narco and gang war stuff to gang war writers? Because whoever's writing this doesn't know. So you're going to send 5. I don't care how many how power super. You're not going to send those guys against 3 million people because that's the area that you're covering. For those blocks, that's 3 million people. That's what you're sending these superheroes against, right? So, nah.
Well, that's because Brubaker doesn't write Marvel.
Yeah. Yeah. But he did. Okay. And what he did was good.
Yeah. But I do like the fact that we're still continuing on with Spider-Man looking for a baby. I do like that.
Yeah, that's the only redeeming factor in that whole book.
Yeah. So here's stuff that was trending this week. Boom, freaking Strange Academy Finals, 1 in 25. That came out months ago.
I was going to say,
months ago, and it is popping back up. Freaking with the numbers. I have no idea.
Did anybody read this book other than us?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I read it.
So they didn't. I know how I know they didn't, because if they would have read this book, they would know that the character, because they're getting it for the character on the front. I forget what her name is, and she got the firehead. That happens in the issue before this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And then the other one that keeps popping up is the Spider-Man annual with Ji Hung Lee, which is my cover of the year. There's the normal cover A, and then there's the 1 in 100 out there. It just keeps selling. So if you got this one, you might have some money there on hand coming up. So just keep an eye on that one. For pre-sales right now, Venom, people keep loving this Black Widow as the Venom covers. They love that. And then Fantastic Four, that Alex Ross, people love that cover as well.
That's a good
there has been some confusion this week over that Joshua Schwebe Captain Marvel #2, because it looks great, but people for some reason thought that it was the Kate Bishop character on the freaking cover, and even then the people that did know that it was Uni Yang, for some reason thought that was her first appearance in Captain Marvel 2. That is not true. It was in issue #1, so just putting that out there. All right. There is no Marvel books on FOC this week. Crazy.
Huh.
New comic book day stuff, Predator versus Wolverine, that Mark Chichetto. It keeps selling really well.
I never
And
understand. I never understand why Wolverine uses a sword. I, I don't get
He's
it.
got
I
six
don't,
yeah,
swords in his hands.
yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
Way
hold
of the
on.
Samurai.
Let me just get a sword. Never mind.
Yep. And then, of course, the other one was the Howard the Duck. We just talked about this
I do
one.
like the cover. Very Sin City. Like
Yeah,
the cover.
it's a weird. So it's a weird book because a lot of people, if you're watching all these top 10 freaking covers that every podcast, they haven't mentioned this book, but the sheer numbers over the past week, we're talking about $10,000 in sales, almost 500 units have been sold for Howard the Duck. Um, it's the Scotty Young. It's a force. You just gotta freaking wait for it.
Hmm.
Stuff that's coming out this next week for December 6th is the Alpha Flight number 5. That's Peach Momoko, Snowbird. Just an intriguing character. But it's in stock, but it's low on stock. So if you want
Is
this one,
any
definitely gotta get it.
is anybody reading Alpha Flight?
It's hard to read.
Yeah.
They need to work on the word bubbles and the art and everything because I try to read it. It's just not readable, and there
I'll
has
put
been something that I've been looking for.
I'll put a promise out there. The next time Alpha Flight comes up and we've got a on the show on it, I will look at the Alpha Flight book. So just because I think it can be really intriguing, but hey ho.
Well, except this is the last issue.
All right, yay!
Venom number 28, the Adi Granov, and yes, I'm Venomed out. However, I do like this art for this one. And then, yep, Thunderbolts
Oh,
number
I like
3, I
I
believe
like
this
that
one
cover.
is. Yeah,
Is that
absolutely.
an AI cover though? I really
It's
think
not.
sometimes these covers are
It
done.
is not. Believe it or not, he's shown where he's got the line work going in, and he just kind of fills it in later. So it's
Okay.
not AI. So.
Okay.
Don't forget look, Marvel is still doing these X-Men Disney 1/100s, right?
Some of
So
those are
this,
cute. Some of those are
yeah.
cute.
So yeah, don't spend $100 on these. Just wait a little bit, and they'll be available for like 18-20 bucks. Star Wars: The High Republic Adventures. The cover A and the cover B have been sold out. So if you see them, go ahead and grab those. The Avengers A is going to be the Twilight Court that's in these. They showed up in the issue number 7, but they actually start talking and naming themselves individually inside this issue. There's also a Peach Momoko Nightmare freaking cover as well.
Is that supposed to be Captain Marvel?
Monica?
Photon, Monica.
Yes. Hmm.
She even in the book.
No, I don't think so.
I'm
Uh,
a little bit behind on Avengers actually. I've got five, 6, and 7 downstairs to read. So, so
yeah, I don't know. Fantastic Four Peach Momoko. And then the Century number 1's coming out with another Peach Momoko and a Scotty Young. You might want to get the Scotty Young because that's what people tend to sell out quickly of. And then that, I believe, was my last Marvel.
Oh.
Yep, that was the last. That was the last Marvel. That's it. So we
there you
actually
go.
made it within reasonable time.
Hey.
It Christmas. Our Christmas present to you is 5 minutes of your life back. There you go. Hey.
Hey. All right. Well, we have one more show. I think next is next show the last show of the year,
Yeah,
or
23rd, yeah.
no? No.
It
So,
was, yeah.
is it the 23rd or the 18th? Right? Or the 17th?
Uh,
Or the 16th?
15th.
15th.
Yeah, so we got one on the 15th, and then there is, oh, excuse me, 16th. Yeah, the 16th, and then
16.
after
Oh,
that,
30th. No, yeah.
you guys
Since
can make a
before.
determination of whether you want to go on New
On New Year's
Year's.
Eve.
Yes.
No, I
Uh,
can tell you that. No.
Wait, we could do that drunken no
Actually,
price chat.
actually, you know what? Forget that because for me, it's like lunchtime. So you guys, it's in the morning on New Year's Eve. We'll be fine. We'll
bring
still be sober. We will
bring your
if we do.
eggnog.
Yeah.
All right, so
Uh,
we're doing game time decision, but we'll talk more about it in the next.
we'll
next
definitely have a show for you. The drops after New Year's Day. When we record it is the thing that's up there. So don't forget, we will be around. In what state we'll be around is a completely different matter.
All right. Well, you guys enjoy all your Christmas shopping over the next couple of weeks, and
If you got the money
hopefully-
for it.
I already got my son a nice comic book, Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1. He's not going to listen to this. So.
Yeah, big spender, man. Those are like $150 nowadays. Jesus.
I got it on the cheap. Don't worry about that.
Nice. All right.
Oh, Lucas, he's gone somewhere else with his comic books.
Hey, you gotta get it in. We can fit it in, man. We can.
Yeah. Every once in a while, I find a good sale.
Cool.
All right, gents. Enjoy, and I'll see you in a fortnight. And until then, stay safe.
Adios.
Oh.